wraps up our first segment for Panel of the Geeks. And for all of our fans, listen to this. Every time you hear that, just log in the timestamp, DM us on Instagram, and you would win a prize.
Yes.
Right? For our first prize, you will have this black and white Batman. Is it a Hush figure? A Hush figure.
Hush figure. So
Yep.
the first person to
The first person to DM it in our Instagram wins this prize. No questions asked. All right?
Already did it.
enough? I wish I was watching.
Just wait for that.
Hi.
All right. Continue. All right. Welcome back to Comicave's Panel of the Geeks. We're on segment 2. And right now we're talking Batman's relevance.
Yes.
All right? So do you think Batman is a character that can thrive in the current setting of the world? Meaning to say, in our current times, is he relevant?
Yes. Yes, Batman is relevant in these current times. However, I think that for me personally, you guys heard me offset, is that I think that in today's time, Batman works and will carry on, but as a non-American story. So like
Right.
if you were to put Batman in a setting of like a developing nation, right? That's in the transition between a pre-industrial era to a post-industrial area, like right there in the middle of that transition.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's where Batman works, right? Because again, you would still have the level of a superstition where somebody dressed as a giant bat is scary. You know, you have corrupt politicians, corrupt police, and so, for a lot of people especially, to have this urban legend, right, that's
The mystery
out,
is still there.
A mystery is still there. And so to have this urban legend that's out there making a difference, right, shaking down crooked cops, scaring crooked politicians straight, I think, like I said, for me personally, I think it works. But just like the American Batman, at least from my perspective, he's somewhere off now with the Justice League, right? Because that time in America, I think, has come and gone. But I think personally, if you gave me a pen and a pad, that my Bruce Wayne will be in a developing nation.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Does that mean that Batman cannot thrive, or he cannot be like the likes of Iron Man, for example?
No.
A tech guy.
Well, again, like you have Batman Incorporated, right? If you're like in terms of telling that story, but like the Batman that we love, that's like at the street level. So for those types of stories, I would take them out of America.
Right.
For me personally.
So which places would you want him to be?
I would put Batman in Manila. I would put Batman in Karachi. I would put him in Lagos. Nigeria, Baghdad in Iraq, Kabul in Afghanistan. So again, so these types of places where urban legend actually is mystifying, right, or still scary, or still scary to some folks. So not so Manila, because that's a modern city, but like the rural areas around it, right? Yeah.
So there's still the relevance.
Yeah, still the relevance. Yeah.
All right. Agreed?
Yep.
Okay. Do you think Batman, though, should be grounded or should be fighting aliens?
Let me tell you something. Here's my thing. Look, I'm gonna get Drax to watch this video, right?
You can address him right now.
Yeah, I'm gonna say, look, because me and Drax had this conversation ad nauseum. So shout out to Drax. Shout out to Ehab, right? Because Batman, it's like the Batman and the Justice League stories. It's like they're so thirsty to give the character a superpower. It's like they're at the cusp of trying to do it, right? But to do that would ruin Batman. And so think about it. The best Batman stories are Long Halloween, The Killing Joke, Dark Victory, right? You know what I'm saying? These are Court of Owls. Right. So at the street level is where you get the real Batman. Because even still, like, so for example, like, what made the Dark Knight, Nolan's Dark Knight, so appealing to a lot of people? that had a lot of elements of the long Halloween in it. Right. So you had the long Halloween in it. So you got this. So you have this street level story, right? That people could attach themselves to. So Batman, the world's greatest detective, the best tactician. You know, once you put him in Star Wars or whatever else, it happens in the Justice League. It's not the same appeal.
I am of the same opinion as Will. I remember reading Dark Knight's Metal,
Yeah.
and I'm like, it was fun. It was
Yes.
It was a fun series of books.
Yes.
But then again, I just cannot connect to Batman in this way.
He's
you
not
know?
Batman, the Batman you know.
Yes,
Yes.
exactly. But still, I had fun with that comic book. I'm not saying it's a bad comic book. It's just that it just feels off.
Yes.
You can do a lot with the character.
It's
And I
spawned
get
off
that.
anyways. You know, one of the best villains right now, one of the most controversial villains.
The
in
Batman Who
Who Laughs.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
But again, I do agree with you in certain degree where, you know, you don't know who Batman is now because they're being forced to become the center of the universe.
Something
Yes.
like that, you know.
Yeah, the Bat God Barbados. Like, come on, like, spare me, right? Just like, you know, him and the Joker have been destined since the faith. There's prophecies in the caves. I'm like, that is completely nonsensical. You know, Batman happened in Gotham City at this point in time, and like I said, in this history, and like I said, that's what makes Batman Batman. So even still, like in juxtaposition to him and the other superheroes. So, you know, when you look at things like Justice League Unlimited or in other forms of media, right? You know, Batman was, look, my primary concern is Gotham, right? And so, you know, and Gotham is where I focus and where I belong. So, you know, me being out there with aliens and lasers and all of that stuff. And again, it's cool. Like, it's cool. Okay, he's a member of the Justice League, you know, and all that stuff. But making that the center part of the identity of the character doesn't work, and especially now with the Matt Reeves Batman film coming out. Because you know what's the great thing about especially characters like Batman and his rogues gallery, people will say, who's the best Batman? Or who's the best Joker? And the funny part is that you can never answer that because those characters are so multifaceted, right? And so with Ben Affleck's Batman, you got to see the brutality of Batman, right? You know, through Christian Bale's Batman, you got to see the mystique, right? Keaton's Batman, you got to kind of see the darkness of the mystery of it, right? And so now with this Batman, you might get to see the detective. You know what I'm saying? You might get to see the detective part of it. And so at the end of the day, these characters are so multifaceted that each time you get a take on these characters, right, it's going to take the audience to a new place.
We'll talk about that one in the next segment.
Yes.
That's a discussion for what could happen.
Yeah.
But I do agree with you in that, what do you call this? Considering Batman as like a human being, right? I think it goes, what he said earlier, he goes toe to toe with like gods, like superpowered beings and stuff like that, primarily using his intellect.
Yes.
There's nothing about being physical about it.
Correct.
But his intelligence, his discipline, and his intellect actually stands out and makes him at par with everyone else. That makes it a little bit more relatable.
Yes.
To
That's what,
all of us.
Yeah, that's what makes him very interesting as a character.
Yes.
Because it's like outsmarting gods.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
it's this kind of thing. It's like he can figure out. There's nothing wrong with him fighting aliens. You know, there's nothing wrong with him. I mean,
Especially if they're invading Gotham.
Yes.
Yeah,
Exactly.
but here's the
There's
thing. But the
nothing
thing
wrong
about
there.
it is that the thing is that for Batman or for anybody in general, right? Preparation. The more you study for a test, the better you are for it.
Right.
And so my argument is that Batman has had probably years of observing and studying Superman and other members of the Justice League. So if Brainiac shows up out of nowhere, he's not going to have it. That's what I'm trying to say. Like all of a sudden that he knows what to do. That's it.
Yeah.
That's complete.
He was mentioning earlier about the bat shark repellent.
Yes.
He has like gadgets for everything that comes.
Yes.
But he needs preparation.
Yeah, but he has to he has to prepare. So again, so everything about Batman is situational. So like, even then, like if you wanted to take a realistic approach to Batman, right? When you get into Batman the animated series, he has an alternate identity called Matches Malone, right?
Yes.
That's a gang member. So realistically, Bruce Wayne would spend 90-something% of the time as Matches Malone. And then he wouldn't become Batman until he was 100% sure that this is going to happen at this time. You know what I'm saying? Here's my way in, here's my way out. It's all prep. Yeah.
I think it just addresses what my next question is that how does he stack up with all the other superheroes? And maybe that's also the reason why he's on one of the top characters that was created for pop culture.
Yeah.
But my next question would be, if he stacks up to that level, who do you think is the nearest one that can be his counterpart? Not necessarily in the same universe, it can be like anybody else.
But see, I just want to come into a point about Batman, and I want to make a life point in general. What Batman shows you is that there's an old saying that says that hard work beats genius any day.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right? So in sports, you have guys who are super talented, but they don't do the academic part of the sport, right? So let's say I have all the physical attributes to be the next Kobe, but I don't watch film. I don't practice, right? I'm gonna be at a disadvantage once I get to the game.
It's the panic.
And, you know what I'm saying? And so for Batman, what happens is what a lot of people don't want to acknowledge or not acknowledge is that a lot of being Batman is very academic. You know what I'm saying? And so this is where he stacks up against the other heroes. So for example, somebody like Hal Jordan who just likes to wing it, right? You know what I'm saying?
I was afraid you were going to say something else.
You know, so Hal Jordan would be in a lot of trouble with Batman, right? Because Hal Jordan is kind of shoots from the hip because the ring, you know, with the ring, I could just improvise. I can just do it. I can just do whatever. And for Superman and Wonder Woman, they're accustomed to being invulnerable. I can punch my way out of any situation. So Batman, because of what his limitations are, he's constantly thinking around them.
Right. You mentioned a good term about that one, the limitations.
Yes.
Because he steps beyond his limitations by embracing and knowing that he has one.
Correct.
Exactly.
Yes.
Oh, anyways,
Yeah.
this is the end of segment 2. And again, we're going to have another prize giveaway. We're going to have, William is going to like this one.
Oh.
So-
Arkham Ultimate Universe.
Exactly. This is a DK book of Batman Arkham Universe. The first DM who answers the timestamp when we did this gets it.
Love that comic.
Where does he get those wonderful photos?
Exactly. From Comicave UAE. Because I'll be on Instagram. Whoever wins those prizes, I'll be the first one to go, where does he get such wonderful toys?
Only at
Only at Comicave.